From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Bursell. This is The Log. There are some signs we may be winning our battle against fascism. Small signs, but I'll take them. That doesn't mean we let up. We have to increase the pressure. Everything we've been talking about still holds. We have to grow the movement. We have to be ready for the long haul. But some small signs of encouragement today. Also, I want to talk about the 7 deadly sins of the regime. Only 7? Well, that's because under sloth, I'm including stupidity. And under wrath, I'm including cruelty. So, yeah, you could stretch out those sins with this regime. But, yeah, we got things to talk about today. Things to talk about. First, though, a reminder, come on over to Blue Sky and Substack, please. That's where we're moving our socials. We're going to be moving away from Facebook and Threads sooner rather than later, but not right away. We want to bring people with us. So make the switch to Blue Sky and Substack. I found them to be vastly superior. I did the 1-week total boycott of Meta last week. Didn't miss it at all. Not at all. Then when I came back to post the latest episode, to post Monday's episode, and I looked around a little bit and thought, yeah, I didn't miss this. So let's all get off Meta forever. May 15th is Nakba Day. We talked a little bit about this on Monday. It's a commemoration observed annually on the 15th. It marks the start of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. And of course, Nakba refers to the mass displacement, the forced resettlement of Palestinians. Over 700,000 Palestinian Arabs had to flee or were expelled. Right of return, a promise never kept. And of course, this 77th anniversary, a particularly harsh anniversary because of what's happening now, the complete annihilation of Gaza and its people. And I bring that up because it's going to be a main theme in many of our protests coming up this Saturday, May 17th. So Saturday, May 17th, mark your calendar, make your plans, paint your sign, get your walking shoes in order, because we are all hitting the streets. Many of us in commemoration of Nakba, but also, of course, in this wide coalition, the many and varied crimes of the regime. So we're marching. All of us hitting the streets Saturday, May 17th. There's something happening in your city or town, I can almost guarantee it. There'll be thousands of events. There'll be millions of people. So join them. 5050.1, the Hands Off Movement, indivisible.org, The People Dissent. They have an excellent resource on Substack, thepeopledissent.substack. As always, I'm asking you to boycott all corporate goods to the best of your ability and make that a permanent boycott. On the schedule, we have Walmart, May 20th through the 26th. As I just mentioned a minute ago, we finished the Meta boycott, but I encourage you to make that permanent as well. All right. So as I mentioned at the top here, I think in a way we're winning, at least a couple of good signs. Because the Orange Menace is just throwing spaghetti against the wall at this point. His ketchup-sauced spaghetti. He's going rogue. He's all over the map. He's kind of just improvising. He's winging it. He's going on instinct. I mean, we know he doesn't really care about anything outside of himself. He's literally defined by the 7 deadly sins, especially the top 2, pride and greed. And then there's lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Wrath covering his natural affinity for cruelty, and sloth, I will incorporate his stupidity into that deadly sin. So he really doesn't care about anyone or anything except himself and satisfying those personal, selfish obsessions. Which means he'll chase any issue position that'll get him there. Get him votes, get him the Nobel Peace Prize. He really wants that. That's why he's such a peacenik these days. But that's just because he wants the prize. Because Barack Obama got one. But of course, He cares most, or only, I should say, about vanity and money, pride and greed. He'll go anywhere and do anything. Just in the past few days, he talked about taxing the rich, redistribution of the nation's wealth. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what he stands for. He's just dumb. He doesn't know about history or government. So somebody, I don't know, he saw a TV show or a movie, or somebody was in the Oval Office. Maybe the maintenance person said something. I don't know where he got the idea, but all of a sudden, everybody's snapping their heads around saying, what did he just say? Maybe we should tax the rich? Maybe we should redistribute wealth? He makes a big deal about lowering drug prices, again, with an executive order that has absolutely zero legal authority. But, he gets a couple days headlines out of it. Yeah, people want lower drug prices. They want me to be tough on the pharmaceutical companies. They like that when Bernie does it. Maybe I'll do it. He doesn't know. So there's no plan. This is just more noise than anything. He doesn't have plans. And we know if he has a concept of a plan, as he puts it, that he'll forget about it in a matter of days or hours, or just, doesn't care. He just blows anything out of his mouth that he thinks people want to hear in the moment. Or if he thinks it sounds good or makes him look tough, or something he just saw on One America News, it doesn't matter. But the point is, he's crazy. He'll do anything. He'll say anything. And I think that's a sign we're winning. I do. Of course, that still makes him a wild card, and a wild card can do anything, and that means he's still dangerous. Of course, he's a racist, and he's totally gullible to his rich friends like Elon. So an example of that is this group of white South Africans that he's allowing refugee status to come into the country just after he revoked temporary protective status for folks from Afghanistan who were here under protective status, making them go back, many of them in danger because they helped U.S. troops. That's the whole reason they were here. Haitians, others, they lost their TPS status just literally days before white South Africans are let in, because he believes the lie that these Afrikaners are being somehow oppressed in South Africa, which of course they're not. They're approximately 7% of the population of South Africa, and they own 70% of the land. And there are some laws in South Africa to try to remedy that disparity, try to make the system a little more fair. So, no, they're not stealing people's land, stealing their farms. They're just changing the law in ways that if land is left unused for an X amount of time, or I think they're changing inheritance laws a little bit. It's all very reasonable. Anyway, just one example. Stupid. Racist. Of course he's corrupt. The whole regime is. Of course he's authoritarian. But he's also incompetent. And all of it puts us in danger because, of course, dictators care more about loyalty and blind obedience than excellence or competence. We have things like, in what first appeared to be good news, Ed Martin was pulled as the interim U.S. attorney for D.C. He was on the job in an acting capacity. But, this Ed Martin guy, even the Republicans, several Republicans wouldn't go for it. So there again, a little bit of good news. So the Orange Menace had to pull the nomination. He defended January 6th. He fired political enemies. He wrote these threatening letters to several agencies. He was just a nut job. But then he was replaced by Jeanine Pirro, of all people. Of course, the equally nutty job from Fox News. And add to that, the whole thing where he appoints interim positions, in acting capacity. Well, the day that the Orange Menace announced Pirro as Martin's replacement was the very day that 120-day limit ran out on an interim appointment. That limit goes with the appointment, not with the person, right? So that 120 days goes for the position, not the person, and time's up. You can't just name another interim acting U.S. attorney and then get another 120 days. Doesn't work that way. But as it stands now, Jeanine Pirro is the acting U.S. attorney for D.C. But she doesn't get another 120 days. And that's a Senate-confirmed position. And I'm very doubtful that the Senate will confirm her for the same reasons they didn't confirm Ed Martin and more. So yeah, incompetence is just everywhere. They've gutted the entire Justice Department. There's no Civil Rights Division. There's no Voting Rights Division. They're just a bunch of Roy Cohns. Kash Patel is a disaster at the FBI. RFK is just nuts, overseeing all the health agencies. So yeah, incompetence everywhere. He posted about swimming in a contaminated creek. Posted, bacteria, sewage, can't swim here. He doesn't care. He's obsessed about vaccines, alternative treatments for measles. He's obsessed about fluoride for some reason, which if you're curious and look it up, you will find with so many conspiracy ideas that come from the wacko at the end of the bar, you'll find one little nugget of truth. Yeah, fluoride in large amounts does have some negative impact on health. The tiny trace amounts in public water systems doesn't come within 1/100th of those dangerous levels. So he's just nuts. He went along with all the Doge crap, completely axing research grants, and even after judges say, no, you can't do that. So RFK is crazy too. He's incompetent. The Librarian of Congress was fired illegally. Notice the name, the Librarian of Congress, not the Librarian of the Orange Menace, no. So fired her and put in her place Todd Blanche, who's already Deputy Attorney General, Orange Menace personal attorney. He was the guy who would stand right at the Orange Menace's side and scowl during his little impromptu press conferences after trial days, the trial where he got convicted. Yeah, that Todd Blanche. So now for some reason, he's the acting Librarian of Congress, also needs Senate confirmation, which I can't imagine. How does he get it? He has exactly zero experience working in libraries or archives. David Richardson is the acting FEMA director, has zero experience in managing natural disasters. Pete Hegseth, of course, has a long line of ridiculous, incompetent bullet points. The original Signalgate, now we discovered, has happened dozens of times. He's been on unsecured chats. By all reports, he's paranoid. He thinks everyone's against him over at DOD, which maybe they are, actually, now that I think about it. He fired a couple of his oldest and best friends because of this paranoia. He exposed his own personal passwords, which were, I think, password 1234. I don't know. 2 fighter jets have literally fallen off the deck of the same aircraft carrier into the Red Sea. It happened in this, I think, in the span of 1 week. It all happened in 1 week. We heard the headline: fighter jet falls off the deck of aircraft carrier into the Red Sea. And less than a week later, heard the same headline. It's like, what? Wait a minute. Again? Yeah, again. Another one. So, yeah. He knows, Pete Hegseth knows how to wear makeup and do his hair real nice and make fiery speeches and look important. So, same as he did on Fox. Just like the other, I think it's 23 now is the total number after Pirro. I think that's what I heard. 23 Fox personalities are now in the Orange Menace administration. And those are just a few. I could cite another 100 examples. It's everywhere, this incompetence. Oh, Dodgy. My God, Dodgy was a total debacle. Complete incompetence, top to bottom. Well, I should amend that a little bit, because the places where they were expert, the people of Dodgy, hacking computers and doing nefarious things as hackers, and they got into systems. So let's hope they were incompetent with that too. If they were competent in that end of their strategy, then I'm not sure what damage they did, actually. We'll find out in years to come. But anyway, bottom line, with all this incompetence, if and when an emergency happens in the United States, and it always does, it's a pandemic or some kind of catastrophic weather event, a cyber attack, some sort of military incident. When we need the U.S. government to respond, we're screwed. It's a heck of a job brownie all over again. So, that's why it matters. That's why this stuff matters. And now, of course, he's on this ridiculous trip, the Orange Menace, his first foreign trip, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. Do you honestly think that he's fooling any of these world leaders like he's fooling his base? Well, of course not. They know exactly who he is. They see right through him. And of course, so they flatter him to appeal to his vanity. They bribe him to appeal to his greed. And they get what they want. And that brings us back to what we opened with. He'll do anything. He doesn't care. He doesn't know. He'll do anything. He's totally realigning the global alliances. Embracing Saudi Arabia, MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, murderer of American journalists, not only murdered, but sliced up into 100 pieces. Yeah, just loves the guy. A complete embrace. Nothing but great things to say about the new president of Syria, former Al-Qaeda leader Ahmed al-Sharaa. Now we're buddies with Al-Qaeda all of a sudden. Okay. And this Qatar plane fiasco, my God. Unconstitutional, bribe. Oh no, they're giving it to the military. Come on, please. Plus, it costs more to convert to Air Force One. I'm not going into the details of the story. I'm sure you know it, right? Qatar wants to give the Orange Menace this big Boeing 747 worth over $400 million as a gift. And then he can use it as Air Force One. But of course, it's blatantly unconstitutional. It's an obvious bribe. They use the excuse that they're giving it to the military. But the deal is that it will be signed over to his presidential library when he leaves in a couple of years. So beyond corrupt, but it's also beyond stupid, because it'll cost more than $400 million, probably close to $1 billion, just to convert the thing to Air Force One. They'd have to pretty much gut the entire. It's they call it the palace. What do they call it? The palace in the air, or the flying palace, or something. So it's got all these rich appointments, right? All this, furniture and rugs and all this luxurious interior. But that would literally have to be taken out, just gutted, in order to make the thing Air Force One. You got to have special security. You got to have special communications, a whole little mini hospital, So would you like to get a $400 gift and then spend $1,000 to be able to use it? Because that's pretty much what we have here. A $400 million gift that'll cost $1 billion to use. And then it doesn't even belong to the country. It belongs to one individual. So it's both corrupt and very, very stupid. And just to state the obvious, if we had an actual democracy in this country, none of anything I've said so far would be the case. None of it would be happening if we just had a democracy. We haven't had a democracy in a long time. Okay, so here's a question. Does any of this even matter? Oh, these rich plutocrats and dictators, and they're all at a different level. They're all screwing with each other. It doesn't really affect our lives. Maybe it doesn't even matter. You know what? No, it matters. There was just a poll that came out recently, a Harris poll. It asked people if the current world economy, mainly put into upheaval by the tariffs, but let's face it, there are a lot of problems even before the tariffs. But they did ask people if any major life goals have been put on hold because of the economy. And they got big numbers. 75% said they're putting off buying a house, 70% putting off a move, 65% are putting off having a child, the most basic human decision you can make, but being dictated by these plutocrats and oligarchs. People maybe want to switch jobs. Maybe they're not happy in their current career, but they don't want to take a chance. 63% of people answered, "No, I'm staying put." Going back to school or planning some sort of education program. 61% putting that off. 60% putting off getting married. The most fundamental, important human decisions you make. Getting married, having kids, where you work, what you do, where you're going to live. And well over half, from 60 to up to 75% of people are saying, nah, can't do it. So let me finish up the program by saying this, just to kind of put a cap on everything here. I've lived in two worlds. I've been sort of middle class, and I've been more kind of the poor working class. So I'm familiar with that range. And I've had a peek at pretty wealthy people too. I've never lived it, but I've seen it. And if fascism takes permanent hold in the United States, as it's threatening to, and as it has in other countries, there will still be a middle class. A lot of folks will get on just fine. Now, let me take a moment here to define, for the sake of this conversation, what I mean by middle class. You're not rich, but you have a decent job that you don't hate. You got a house, you got a car, maybe a college fund for the kids, a vacation once a year. You have all the basics. You don't have extra money necessarily, but you're not worried. You're not waking up in a cold sweat. Middle class. Not rich, but not worried. Okay, so that's what I mean by middle class. Fascist and authoritarian countries have middle class people. They don't have freedom, but they have everything I just described. China has a middle class of about 40%, depending on who's reporting. But that's a generally agreed estimate. 40% roughly equal or even maybe a little better than the United States. About 2% of China's population is wealthy, which is also equal to the about 2% in America that are wealthy. China's poverty rate is lower than the United States, approximately 20% to our 30%. And they have no extreme poverty. They've gotten rid of that. Their extreme poverty rate is 0 compared to the 4 or 5% rate of extreme poverty in the United States. And you can say similar things. I don't have the numbers for other countries, but other non-democratic nations. We talked about Hungary a couple of weeks ago. They have a very visible middle class. But name any modern authoritarian state. Russia has a middle class. Tucker Carlson made sure we saw that. So, yeah, fascism works for some people. Authoritarianism works for some people, including the Middle East dictatorships where the Orange Menace visited this week. And apparently he now just loves, he just can't get enough of Saudi Arabia and Qatar and United Arab Emirates. He just thinks this is great. Well, they're not democracies, not even close. Fascism works for some people. It's always been the case that there are many, many good people who work and live in bad systems. There were kings and serfs in the old country, and the history of American slavery and Jim Crow and the pre-suffrage era, the 60s Mad Men era with particular laws and ethos. These were bad systems. But there were many good people just living their lives with varying degrees of awareness of the system itself. We have a bad system today. These two corporate political parties, one of them now deeply engaged in authoritarianism, the other feckless and weak and flailing. A great many of us can't afford the basics, the house, the car, the vacation, just the normal life, with a job that we can stand. We're under a really bad system right now. And the same thing is true. Some people are doing fine, and there are many good people in a bad system. Now, some countries have taken the fascist route. There are still good people in those countries. Some of them fighting the fascists, some of them just getting along. You could say, well, they're not good people then. But It's hard to judge. We're just trying to live. And the exact same thing is happening here today, right now, in our country. And you have to decide. Are you going to stand and watch as we slide into full authoritarian fascism and just count on the idea that, you know what, I'll be one of the lucky ones. I'll be okay. Or are you going to fight? Are you going to actually do something? And by do something, I mean something visible, tangible. How are you going to change your life? Change where you live, how you live, who you choose to work for, how you spend your free time, where you get your media. Tangible changes in your life that are necessary in order to be part of the resistance. Or, on the other hand, are you just going to do what you do and hope it all turns out all right? And hope that if it doesn't turn out all right, yeah, maybe I can be one of the lucky percentage that does all right, that the regime allows to thrive. If at this point you haven't made tangible changes, how you work, how you consume, how or if you engage in activism, if there is no tangible evidence that you've made changes, then you are not part of the resistance. You may read the news, you may have strong opinions, you may vote your conscience, but that is not resisting. No. That is appeasement to the fascists. So, become part of the resistance. Find people and organizations that you can join with, organize, protest, withdraw from oppressive systems. That's what I was just talking about. The decisions you make about your life, where you live, where you work. If it's doing more harm than good, you need to extricate yourself. Keep yourself educated. Help to educate others, especially about all the propaganda and lies. Support institutions and individuals when they do speak out. Whistleblowers. Wear it on your sleeve. You and I have talked about this before. Symbols are important. They're not trivial. Anti-fascist symbols on your t-shirt, on your hat. Let people know. And then let that grow into acts of disruption. We have to disrupt the system. All right. Well, we're out of time. Let's pick it up right here next time we get together on ways of the resistance. All right. This episode can be heard on your favorite podcast platform or at charlespurcell.com. Please do join me on Substack and Blue Sky. Write to me, charlespurcell@gmail.com. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio. Theme music by Peter Donalds. All right. I love you. See you out there.